Stan Lee has passed away at 95 years old. As many of you know, today is day that many of us have dreaded. Stan Lee has passed away at the age of 95. He leaves behind a legacy of superheroes and stories that have touched many people's lives for decades. We wanted to make this thread to honor and remember this wonderful man. So please use it to discuss his life, his work, his cameos, etc., and what they meant to you. Excelsior, the Ask Reddit mods. FYI to those who are reporting this breaking news. Mega threads and mob posts are exempt from Rule 1 and 2 as they serve a separate purpose to the sub compared to regular posts. Source: you for your civility and for being kind to the other human beings in this subreddit. Best wishes. Was really hoping he'd get to see Avengers 4, but at least he did get to see and interact with his creations on the big screen. RIP. He filmed his cameos years in advance just for this situation. He'll be in the next 2 for sure. Saw an article that said his next 5 cameos are already filmed. His wife passed away not too long ago. 2. It must have been lonely to all of a sudden be without his life partner. It's possible to die of a broken heart. I hope he passed peacefully. At least, I believe this happened to George Carlin as well. He was always in pretty good health despite his age, but he really started to show his age when she passed on. Seriously, there was a thread in here I was reading earlier on today about who you can't believe is still alive, and someone mentioned Stan Lee. No frickin' way. Not only did this man create an empire that almost everyone loves, but he was a genuine man who just loved to see people smile. I had the pleasure of working under him for some pop culture conventions, and all he wanted was to see fans smile and enjoy his legacy. He loved to joke with those around him, and he would tease the ever-loving HL out of everyone he could. I remember him using his motorized scooter to get around backstage, and his poor assistant would speedwalk to keep up with him, but he would just keep increasing the speed until she was running beside him. A wicked grin on his face the whole time. Or how he would constantly make his staff repeat themselves, "What, I didn't hear you," until they had repeated themselves 4 times. Witnessing that initially made me sad, thinking his hearing was poor. Until he looks at me with that same grin and winks. My time with him was short, but I'm so glad I got it. This man changed my life before I even met him, and he made a huge impact when I did as well. RIP Stan. Goodbye to a great mind. Between him and Hawking, it's been a terrible year. Both changed the world in their own ways. Not to make things much worse, but you apparently missed Steve Ditko passing in June, the other great comic book legend. He was the highest grossing actor of all time if you include cameos and supporting actors. He beat out Cliff Clavin? Good for him. I guess over the next few years, we will see how many future cameos were filmed early. It will be nice to still see him and know that there is more to look forward to. I mean, both Captain Marvel and Avengers 4 are in post-production, and Spider-Man Far From Home is mostly filmed. It wouldn't be surprising if they bulk recorded a few for movies already in pre-production, which would cover up to 2020, if not to 2023. Personally, I would like for him to have that one last really meaningful cameo in Avengers 4 as one above all, and end it there. It would be a high send-off to his greatness. A friend and I snuck into a premiere party for a movie. That's an r/act like you belong story on its own, but we spotted Stan Lee, surrounded by a posse, a lot of pretty girls and some serious handlers. Here we were, just average idiots in a place we weren't supposed to be. We approached just wanting to say hello and thank him for his work. The handlers were not having any of it and started to move us along. He stopped the handlers and said hello to us. I got to shake his hand and thank him. He asked if we had cameras. I was kinda dumbstruck by the moment, and forgot cameras existed. He actually wanted to pose for pictures with us still. Have the photo and a nice memory of a pretty great guy who was good to his fans. Edit. We approached just wanting to say hello and thank him for his work. The handlers were not having any of it and started to move us along. He stopped the handlers and said hello to us. I got to shake his hand and thank him. That story reminds me of this story from the Bible. Greater than 15 people were also bringing babies to Jesus for him to place his hands on them. When the disciples saw this, they rebuked them. 16 But Jesus called the children to him and said, "Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of God belongs to such as these." 17 Truly, I tell you, anyone who will not receive the kingdom of God like a little child will never enter it. I'll repeat in what I said in another thread, but shortly. He used his platform for selfless purposes, and he always stood up for the minority in the face of bigotry. Captain America fought and eyes. Iron Man was an alcoholic war vet. The X-Men represented those who had been misunderstood and cast out by society and its all too alienating standards. Power Man, a black man whose skin was his power, defended Harlem. Rest in peace, Stan Lee. You were awesome. This sounds pretty stereotypical, but it means a lot to me. I grew up in a family with 2 alcoholic parents and likely abuse-related early onset mental illness. My reality was incredibly bleak from a very young age. One day, I got my hands on an anthology of the original Amazing Spider-Man comics. Every morning and every night when I got home from school, I cracked open that anthology and read each and every comic again and again and again. Stan Lee gave me a healthy escape to a world where all loose ends tied up nicely, where the bad guys always lost, where I knew I was safe. Rest in peace, Mr. Lee. Thank you for everything you've done for me and the likely tens of thousands like me. I'm 40+ years of age. When I was growing up, all the Marvel comics I read featured Stan's soapbox, a short column where he would write about whatever was on his mind. It was like a personal letter every month, and always did such a good job of welcoming all into this little club of misfits and weirdos. Stan is different than most of my heroes in that when I think of him, I'm always 13 again. The guy created characters that served as father figures for kids who didn't have one in their lives. Provided pillars of morality and courage for many people. Can't imagine how many people battled depression, anxiety and suicidal thoughts by thinking, if Cap can fight in the name of good and the truth, I can make it one more day. Thank you, Stan Lee. May you R.I.P. The year was 2008. I was a high school senior at a college preparation workshop. The instructor presented a quick essay prompt: write about who you are. Having been amazed and greatly inspired by the very first MCU movie just recently, I pulled off the top of my head, I am Iron Man. This went on to become the basis of my admissions essay. And I owe my choice to pursue a career in engineering to Tony Stark. Thank you, Stan Lee. I know I'm late to this post, but I met him when I was 17, shook his hand and asked him some questions, and had a muffin with him. He is my hero. I didn't have the most active male role models in my life, and I used comics to fill that void. I learned more from Spider-Man about responsibilities than anyone. I learned all about racism at a young age through X-Men, and I learned patriotism and to always fight the good fight through Captain America. Of course, I learned weird things like don't go through space portals or don't inject yourself with a weird virus as your girlfriend tries to kill you. But most importantly, I learned there is others out there like me who also were alone and needed someone. I grew up when it was still lame to be a nerd, and I was bullied for knowing what the circle in Iron Man's chest was. My first fist fight was over Spider-Man. My first memory of my dad is him reading me West Coast Avengers. To Stan Lee, thank you. You helped me grow up and become a much better person than I would have become without you. I owe you so much, and it hurts I couldn't give you more than a smile when we met. But he called me a true believer. So to all the other true believers out there, keep believing in yourself and others. I love you all. I'm sitting here in tears. I wish there was a way I could say thank you to Stan and to Marvel. A few years ago, I was going through a breakup from an abusive shitbag. I had completely shut down, was failing out of school, dropped below 100 pounds and a whole lot more as I was coming to terms with everything. I lived next to a boatyard and one day went to jump from the dock. I can't swim. I didn't have the courage to jump. I just sat there crying. I realized I reached rock bottom. That week, my friend persuaded me to go see a movie with her. It was my first introduction to Marvel. I was hooked. Thank you, Stan. I managed to dig myself out of a dangerous hole because your movies were an outlet. Those movies saved me from myself and the self-destructive path I was on. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notification. See you on another video. Bye.